This radio show might make you cry, will probably make you angry, will most assuredly make you laugh, and is guaranteed to make you think. 3-6 Nation Radio, where no topic is too hot, no take is too cold, with Monica Livingston. 3-6 Nation Radio, in 3, 2, 1.
3-6 Nation Radio, we are here. It's Thursday. I love you. How are we today? Oh, man. Ivan Edward Woner sitting in for Monica Livingston, who is searching the wild blue yonder. Looking forward to seeing her again soon. Today, if you're a black person in Harvard, keep your clothes on. Those cops will beat you down. All right, we're going to talk about a lot of things that are happening today. I'm really excited. We have the government, we have politics, we have the news. But can I just start with the weirdest happy news? The Pulitzer Prize Committee has just awarded Kendrick, my man Lamar, who is now the first hip-hop artist to win a Pulitzer Prize. This is like Maya Angelou winning, I guess it's also like her winning a Pulitzer Prize, except there have been poets who have before. This is the first hip-hop artist to ever win a Pulitzer Prize, which is fantastic. Non-classical or jazz to win the music prize, right? This is really crazy in a great way, because it says a couple things. Number one, it says that was a great album. Right, just from an artistic standpoint, everybody knew this. I knew it. I'm sitting in an Uber, as I want to do, and I got rid of Uber. I'm using Lyft. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm sitting in an Uber, and the song comes on, and I'm like, "What is this? I love this." He's like, "Oh, that's that new Kendrick Lamar joint." I was like, "That's a Grammy in my mind," and I was right. So, profit. But also, it talks about the cultural relevance that is the genre of hip-hop. And even as we're doing things today, we have not just the people who are experiencing and living and bleeding and dying with a certain genre of music and culture, but even the establishment that is the Pulitzer Committee can look at this and go, this is important and this matters. And that's very important as we try to understand where we're going as a society. So great job, KL. Didn't he just perform at the Kennedy Center a couple months ago, which is another crazy thing? Not just is he performing and stealing classical music prizes, he's performing with classical music artists and still doing his thing. I love it. I love it. It's still gangsters. I'm calm. All right. We are going to talk about some things today. But last week, I know I mentioned some stuff that was going on. Facebook, there was a whole thing with the CIA director, Mike Pompeo, and people asked me, why does this matter, okay? Why does it matter? What's going on? Yada, yada, yada. We're really tired of this. And there's a lot of this going on. There was a poll that came out this week that said gun legislation preventing the deaths of children is still an important topic for many voters, but it's fallen 13 points since, Parkland, was that 2 months ago, 3 months ago? Like this year, like it's fallen, like it was really important, and then it slides, right? We have all of these issues. We talk about LGBT rights that are a really big issue until like nobody cares anymore because like the thing happened and something new happens. We had that remember that one time that the president tried to kill somebody and then something else happened. He bombed a country and we're like, should we be upset about this? I'm confused. And so I want to kind of put some things into perspective today with a segment that I call Why It Matters. When I edit this, we're going to have some like flashy stuff. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be like the why it matters, all the things.
3-6 Nation News.
I love it. It's exactly what it's going to be like, except it's going to be why it matters. Okay, here's a couple things, though. I want to talk really about Mike Pompeo and his appointment to the CIA, what this means for you as a regular person. So Mr. Pompeo is a former member of Congress. And as a congressional person, he is beholden to his constituency, right? People vote him into office, and then he does things. And as a constituency voting person, he said a lot of words. And then he was appointed to CIA director, and now he's being nominated for Secretary of State. If you don't know the distinction between these things, I don't blame you. There's a lot of complicated stuff. It's government. Doesn't matter. Here's the important part. Number one, the State Department is an avenue for diplomacy. Diplomacy is the ability to talk with other nations so we can all not have war, right? That's what we want. We want diplomatic solutions to complex international problems. It requires a person that can walk into a room, who can look at people who are not our friends and be able to calm everybody down, come up with a plausible solution, and then be able to shake hands. That's how we make allies. That's how we end wars. That's how we have not aggression, right? And I think the real thing that we are looking for is not war, right? As much as everybody talks a big game, at the end of the day, what we want is not war. So it's important that as a person, whoever the Secretary of State is and the entire State Department, that they represent America and American views. Now, as a politician, this man said some words. One of the things he said was, these people worship other gods and call it multiculturalism, or they are endorsing perversion and calling it a legitimate lifestyle. All right. Very specifically, he's talking about Muslims and homosexuals. And when he was asked in his confirmation hearing last Tuesday, I believe, he said, well, as a politician, I was a politician, am I right? And that's troubling. Because one, as the leader of our diplomatic mission, as the representative of us, he goes around the country and they look at him and they see you. They see Mike, Secretary of State Mike, your perverted, multicultural, worshiping other gods, Pompeo. That reflects on you. That's what they think America is. Right? If we have a person who is, like Teddy Roosevelt said, speak softly and carry a big stick, right? And speaking of the big stick, it's a great little spot down by the stadium. If you're talking about people who say, let's be careful with our words. We can do actions, but we are careful with our words. That sets a certain tone, right? Henry Kissinger, bomb, ba, bomb, ba, 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 bomb. That sets a tone for what they think we are. If Mike Pompeo becomes Secretary of State, the entire world will assume that we as a nation endorse the position that gays are perverted and Muslims worship other gods and are multicultural. And I personally have a problem with that. It is not, they are not, how dare you, sir? How dare you, sir? And to pander to constituents and to use the excuse, well, I was a politician. Come on, guys, you know how it's done. How dare you, sir? One, I want a person who stands on what they believe. I want a person who says what they mean at all times. No one has ever accused me of not saying what I believe. You can criticize what I believe, and we will have a lovely discussion about that. But you do not come up and make up some words quoting other people, especially not words that disparage and destroy and denigrate and attack American citizens, whole swaths of American citizens, and then be like, man, I had to say what I had to say because, my people hate people. Number two, the CIA, of which he is currently the head, is a covert operation. It is not diplomatic at all. It is the opposite of diplomacy, right? Diplomacy is, hi, we're coming to talk to you, don't shoot. It's the hostage negotiator of politics. The CIA is the guy who drills a hole through your basement in order to steal the jewels out. And there's a role for that in government. The CIA director is not a diplomat. They do different roles. And so by promoting the former CIA director to the position of diplomat, you again say, I mean, he's the same thing, right? Is it the same guy? Come on, he's been trained. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? And as a message that sends to countries all over the world who already think the State Department is at best shady and at worst an extension of the CIA, you are confirming it. You are making it harder for them to say, no, the things that we are saying, we are being direct and honest with you. We are being upfront and direct with you. We are telling you our feelings. We are telling you our position, and we would like to come to solutions. You make it so we are not trustworthy. So I have an issue with Mike Pompeo's Senate appointment vote that's coming up. There's going to be a vote. I believe it might have been today. It could be tomorrow. That's to get out of the select. It's not the Select Committee on Intelligence. It's the Committee on Foreign Affairs. He has to come out of that, and he has to be not affirmed. And then it'll go to the full Senate, and they'll vote on it. We don't know if he's going to come out. I'm upset if he does. I'm upset if he doesn't. Not that he's not. I'm upset that it even got this far. All right? I'm upset. It's okay. You're allowed to be upset. Be angry and said not. Moving on. Let's go. You know what? I'm going to take a break. I'm going to get some water. We're going to come back. I'm going to take a break. Let's talk about Lucky's Sports Bar and Grill. Because if I know one thing, it's that Lucky's Sports Bar and Grill has a commercial that we can air. This is 36 Nation Radio. We will be right back. I love all you people.
Here at Lucky's, we see things differently and we invite you to do the same. With a visual thrill of 8 high-definition screens measuring 6 feet by 8 feet, complemented by an additional 15 HD TV plasma screens at 50 inches, you won't miss a beat, play, or pitch. That's over 50 million pixels of rich high-definition action, allowing you to immerse yourself in a sports experience like no other. While you're here, if it's your appetite that needs satisfying, feast on a meal that only Lucky's can create. Prepared daily, our fresh and diverse selection of dishes are assured to please the most difficult critic. And if that's not enough, try hitting our 3,000 square foot game room and jump full tilt into the latest and greatest interactive experiences. Track your gameplay every time you return, and you can also earn exclusive Lucky's rewards. All this entertainment is backed by a family-owned and operated business with over 30 years of experience, which is why you'll soon understand that Lucky's is more than just luck. Be sure to visit Lucky's Sports Theater at 7027 Manchester Boulevard in Alexandria, Virginia.
Come on, hustle. Get your head in the game. Come on.
Are you setting the right example for your kids?
Are you even trying? The ball's down there. What are you doing? You need to get some confidence.
Come on, hustle up, get up there.
Reviewing last year, ad revenue has declined 15%.
Come on, get your head on straight.
Before your child's next game, ask yourself, how would you like it if they copied your behavior?
There are many ways which we can improve.
That's for sure. You need to get some confidence.
Positive Coaching Alliance has valuable tips and tools to help our kids perform their best while keeping sports enjoyable for everyone. Their development zone is a great resource for parents like us. Positive Coaching Alliance, creating better athletes, better people. Learn more at positivecoach.org/Fox Sports.
I love how USAA gives me the peace of mind and the security just like the Marines did. At one point I did change to a different company with car insurance and I was not happy with the customer service. We have switched back over and we feel like we're back home now.
The process through USAA is so effortless that you feel like you're a part of the family.
I love that I can pass a membership to my children and that they can be protected. We're the Williams family and we're USAA members for life.
Call USAA today to talk about your insurance needs.
You know, you wake up and we are back, 36 Nation Radio, not talking at all about parks and recreation. Donald Trump, Donald J. John, is that a word we can use when we're talking about people who buy prostitutes? Donald John Trump is now been accused of more and more things. He's been tweeting about Stormy Daniels and is incriminating himself. Stormy Daniels' lawyer says, and I quote, #Christmas, which is funny because if I was in a lawsuit with someone who wouldn't shut up, right? That's just gold. First of all, that is gold. You want them to continue to talk because the more they talk, the more things that you can use in your suit. Right now, he's on the hook for defamation, maybe, for lying under oath, all kinds of things. It's great. He's not lying for under oath. That's a lie. He hasn't been under oath yet. That's what they're trying to do. Robert Mueller, I love you. Please do your thing. All of these things. #Christmas, #Hanukkah, #Basta. Here's what I'm afraid of, though. You don't poke crazy people, right? Right. I mean, you can a little bit. Like when I was in 6th grade, there was this guy, Phil Brown, and Phil Brown was a bad person. He was bad in the kind of way that like evil is bad, and he would like pick at somebody's psyche until they cracked, and then they would go out and just like punch a whole bunch of, but they would never think it was Phil. They were never attacking Phil. I hope he's not watching. They would always go after other people, and he was like, you know, this is happening. You should just do this thing. And he would just like poke them. So somebody decided that they were going to like turn on this crazy person, and he lost it. He couldn't handle that, right? Here's what we know about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a crazy person. Not crazy in the traditional, I think my father should be helped because he's lacking empathy and morals. I'm talking, this man thought it was funny to drop the mother of all bombs on an empty runway in another, like he just does stuff. He's bragging about murder and destruction, and he is crying because there aren't lawyers like they used to be. You know, the kind that would fabricate evidence to get people executed. #Ethel Rosenberg. #Gary Cohen. Here's what I want. I want everybody, please, to calm down with him. Grandpa is crazy, and he has a gun. We got to get the hostage negotiator in there to calm him down. Hey, buddy, listen. So apparently he just shot missiles over at Syria, which we'll talk about that in a second. Secretary James Tiananmen Square Mattis said, you should really go to Congress because this might be overstepping your authority. And he said no. And then he sent some missiles and he bombed some chemical weapons things. He's not even listening to the people in his, like the sane people. General Mattis is he's a monk of war. Mad Dog himself is a monk of war. Monks study the Bible and they sit in rooms and they read and they meditate on Jesus. General Mattis, or world peace if you're Buddhist. General Mattis, the general is a monk of war. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have children. They said his war library in his house is the most extensive collection of war books in the world. That's what he does. He do it right. He do it good. He does war. And when Mattis says, before we do the war, like, you really should just like get congressional approval because this could spiral out of control and then we'd be up a creek without a hard place. And when your guy says no, you either don't respect him or you're just a crazy person. And I know Donald Trump respects General Mattis. There's very few things that I know about Donald Trump, which means that he's just a crazy person. If you have a crazy person with a lot of bombs and a lot of anger, who's being investigated by the greatest prosecutor of all time, please stop antagonizing him. He will do crazy things. I want there to be less crazy things for like a week. Please. All right, we're gonna calm down. We're gonna go to some things. Kendrick Lamar, National School Walkout is Friday. There's another one. I'm excited. I believe it's Friday. I'm just like lost. There was a plane that blew up. Did you guys see about this? Did you hear this? There was a plane. It was a Southwest flight. Its engine explodes midair. Something They call it shrapnel. Something went through one of the windows and a woman was sucked out, and a firefighter grabs her and pulls her back in. They land the plane, everybody gets out. One person perished. Only one. Thank the Lord. I don't know if you guys have a fear of flying. If you are on a 14-ton giant bird and it loses one of its wings, that's a reason that you would just be like, oh. And people were like tweeting their loved ones. I love you. We're going down. I'm so sorry. I never meant to cheat on you. Like all of these things, like the worst possible. And they survived. And they survived because, hey, Monica watching. I love you, Monica. They survived because the pilot, who was just, can I say badass? I'm going to say badass. She was badass. Was one of the first, if not the first, Navy fighter pilots in the U.S. Well-trained, madam. Well-trained. She took a one-armed bird loaded with people after it had exploded mid-air, had a hole in it with people flying around, and was like, JFK, over. Brought it down, everybody walks away. -1. Very excited. I don't want this to make you afraid of flying, okay? This was the first accident and the first fatality for Southwest Airlines, which I had to look up because I don't want people to be afraid. But also, planes are designed so that they can not just fall out of the sky. It happens. I got into a conversation and was shown evidence where it happens. But the reason why it happens is not because all of a sudden like a plane cracks and it falls apart. Like there's been a lot of systemic errors. It's the same reason why you could be on a car, like a bus ride, and it explodes in a fireball because, somebody just left the bathroom all filled up with methane for like 40 years, and then it just keeps building and building, and then someone smokes in the back, and they're not supposed to smoke, and next thing you know, there's like a fireball of flaming Greyhound on the highway. Like it's not supposed to happen. It was not designed for that to happen. And if it happens, there's been a lot of catastrophic failures from a lot of people's faults. So I'm very proud of our Navy pilots for their training. And this is a great example of that. I am very pleased that the damage was not greater. And I want to reassure all of you, flying is still okay. Don't fly United. All right, Chris Kobach. You guys know who this is? Chris Kobach? If you are a wrestling fan, you probably don't know who he is. Chris Kobach led the Voter Rights Commission by Donald Trump. He is the former Secretary of State in Kansas. He led the Voter Rights Commission, the Voter Fraud Commission. He was looking for voter fraud. He could smell it. He could smell it, and he was going to find it. And so Chris Kobach looked very hard in the federal government for some voter fraud. He did not find any. He went back to Kansas, where he was being sued by the ACLU as Secretary of State. Rulings have begun to come out, and he's been held in contempt of court. Contempt of court is the kind of thing that Roy Moore had, actually, which got him disbarred or kicked out of being a judge twice, I think. Twice? What he did in 2016, he had some voter laws, and they were being challenged by the courts. And the court said, until we get this resolved, the people who you are trying to kick off the voter rolls, let them vote. We will resolve this later. He said, no, we are not going to do that. And he took them off the voter rolls. He failed to update the website with like accurate information. So he's like, well, we didn't say that they couldn't. We just didn't tell them that when we said that they couldn't, we were wrong. So we did tell them that they couldn't. He didn't send postcards to the voters. You know how they send like, hey, here's your registration. They stopped sending out election postcards, voter information. They were told to stop enforcing the law directly, and they refused. So he's been held in contempt of court. It is a disdain for the rule of law. There is nothing in my book, period, end of sentence, more damning to a political person, to somebody in politics, to somebody in government, to somebody in any kind of public space than a contempt of the law. Because it means that we can't function as a society. I mentioned when we first started, I mentioned Boston. There was this up in, Harvard. There was a man who was naked. He was walking in the median, and he was rushed by some 5 police officers, and they beat his black ass down. They hurt him. And he definitely wasn't carrying a weapon, and they beat him. And this is a Harvard student. I don't know why he was naked. I don't know what was going on. Seriously, every damn time, every single time that this happens, I lose my mind. And the reason I lose my mind is not just because you have police brutality, right? I get the brutality. I'm upset about that. It's not just because it is targeted at blacks. I understand that it is, and I am outraged and disgusted by that. But the reason, the reason number one, and then reason number two is that they're prosecuting, these people get let off. And that cheeses me to no end. But reason number one is that the law is designed to protect us, and specifically to protect the minority. The majority, all y'all people out there, they make the rules. That's how it works. I accept that, right? We work as a democracy. We vote on things. We say, all right, all in favor? That's everybody but Johnny. It's a rule. Johnny doesn't lose his rights. He just doesn't get the rule he wanted. He still has rights as a person. And those rights are enforced in the law, right? You have to follow the rules that are made. You cannot do other things. You cannot go this far. You cannot use excessive force. You cannot just jump on a person and beat them down. You cannot pull out a gun and start shooting people because I was afraid for my life, sir. I was terrified. You cannot do these things. We have the law to protect us. And so when it is law enforcement that is violating the law, we are caught in a catch-22. We are caught in a situation where the people whose job it is to make sure people follow the law are themselves not following the law. And it prevents the law from working properly. Not just in police brutality. We have this all over our country right now, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to fix that. I got good news for y'all. But if you are in contempt of court, you go to the court, they tell you to do something, and you say, you're done. I hope they go out. I hope they put him in jail. That is a jailable offense. I don't know if he's going to jail, but being held in contempt of court, they can just arrest you. One of the reasons why this is so important, and this is why we're going to talk about why it matters, but this is the two sides. I want to get into this a little bit today. We're going to take a break, but then I want to get back, and I really want to break down a concept. People don't like arguing. People don't like talking about the different sides of issues. So I want to really break down the two sides of this particular debate, the voter fraud in America debate, and talk to you about why it matters. I want to talk to you about what you can do about it, and I want to talk to you about how important it is that we do not allow our conversation to get out of control or out of hand, all right? We're going to take a break. I love you guys. Right back.
It's about respect. Respect for our teammates, respect for our fans, and respect for our game.
It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. On this team, we're a family.
Racist, sexist, and homophobic language have no place on our team.
We pledge to make our locker room a safe place for everyone.
No matter your race, religion, or whether you are straight or gay, if you can play, you can play.
Thought about launching a broadcasting career? Think you have what it takes to become a broadcasting professional? Learn the skills that will make people want to tune in. Join Monica Livingston, radio personality and owner of 36 Nation, for a career development workshop on what it takes to be a radio DJ, sportscaster, and news anchor. Find out how the former DC diva and owner of 36 Nation manages her own live internet radio show. Sign up for a workshop today where Monica doesn't just share broadcasting tools, she puts you on the air.
Things and we go back. We're remixing America. All right, two sides of the voter rights debate. Side number one, and this is the side that I get thrown at my face all the time. One, adding voter ID laws to America, to states, strengthens our confidence in the electoral process. That's a statement that makes sense, doesn't it? If we know who's voting, then we can be confident that we know who's voting. I don't think that that is a weird statement to make. And so when I hear that and people talk about that, they are creating what we like to call an argument. They're allowed to, and it's a good statement, all right? We want to have confidence in our election process. Last year, in 2016, even before that, confidence has been being eroded. Confidence because people have been hacking systems, confidence because things have been, quote unquote, manipulated by foreign attackers. We have had a lot of issues with people being turned away from polls, people like, are dead people voting? What's going on? We want to be sure that my vote matters because has been confirmed and reaffirmed again and again by the Supreme Court and by our politicians and by the people. Our vote matters. It's important to establish the kind of belief that the system matters. Russia had an election 3 weeks ago now. 3 weeks ago? Was that last month? Russia had an election, and it was not a real election, right? There were voter fraud incidences where people were just coming in and like pouring hundreds of ballots into a voting box. They have it on camera, and then the people who caught it on camera, they disappeared. Like, NPR went and interviewed people, and those people have been arrested since. Like, it's crazy to watch the amount of voter suppression and manipulation and direct abuse that happens in a country like Russia. We do not have that here. But it is very important that we do not begin or sniff or go in that direction. We want to know that our votes matter. Second thing we have is it forces people to follow the rule of law, right? We want to know who's voting, but like you can't vote if you're a fill in the blank. I don't want to talk about felons and voting. You can't vote if you're a felon, ex-felon, foreigner, right? We don't want people who should not be voting because we have a system built on law. And, we don't want people who are going around the country, busing people across state lines in order to back ballots and all these things. We don't want these kinds of things happening. Also, and just from a mathematical standpoint, every time someone who is not allowed to vote, it means that one vote is canceled out. If I went and voted and then you also voted and you weren't allowed to vote, that means I didn't get a vote, right? You deleted mine, which is crazy. Now, that would be a real problem. All of those things as arguments sound academically interesting. They sound great. Here's the problem, though. If I have an issue, right, we want to make sure that everybody can trust that the police would be fair. We want to make sure that they follow the rules. A way to do that should not be to blindfold all of the citizens, right? It doesn't work. It's a non sequitur. It doesn't affect what you are trying to affect. It prevents us from seeing. But what about this? We want to make sure that the police are not abusing people. And so what we do is we give the police more power. so it's within their jurisdiction now. They're not breaking the law. They're just doing this according to the law, right? That not only does the opposite, it makes the problem worse. With the voter ID law in Kansas, Mr. Kobach, in Kansas, there were 5 instances in the past 10 years of voter fraud that they could find. They found 5. 5 people who weren't allowed to vote voted. They passed a law that prevented tens of thousands of people from voting. I don't think the best thing to do to ensure the rights of voters is to prevent voters from voting, especially if only 5 people, 1 person every 2 years, is affected, right? Am I wrong? Am I confused? I'm sorry, I'm not arguing. I'm talking about sides. Here's the thing. Let's go into it. 5 illegal votings in Kansas in the past 5 years. It prevents active, eligible citizens from voting. And if it doesn't prevent it, we are increasing the loopholes necessary for people who are eligible to vote. We're making it more difficult. And so by making it more difficult for someone to express their most fundamental rights in an effort to catch the non-existent thousands, the non-existent hundreds, the 5 people in the past decade that have done a problem, you are using a bazooka to kill a housefly. And I suspect that there might be other reasons, right? Because if you actually wanted to do the things that you were saying, you would do something that did what you are saying. And because this law, and he was told to stop doing this, because it did not accomplish what he set out to accomplish, it is suspected that he was trying to accomplish something else. I wonder what that could be. I don't have to wonder because the Supreme Court said it. It did not say it directly about Mr. Kobach. They're still litigating that trial. But in May of last year, the Supreme Court of the United States, #SCOTUS, they ruled that the North Carolina's voter ID law was unconstitutional because, quote, it targeted African Americans with an almost surgical precision. So the law accomplished what they were trying to do. They just lied about what they were trying to do with an argument that wasn't illogical. That's why this matters, right? That's why when we're talking to people and they give you information, they give you an argument, you don't have to yell at them. You don't have to disagree with them. Their argument, if it's not fallacious, take it, listen to it. It's a good thing. But is it accomplishing the thing that they were trying to accomplish? In North Carolina, when this voter ID law was enacted, what it did, it eliminated same-day registrations. It prevented people from using student IDs. It eliminated a lot of IDs, actually. And the funny thing is, you could use a voter card. You had to get a special voter card, though. You were allowed to use student IDs to get the voter card. So it didn't set a higher standard so they could justify, like, no, we want this higher piece of information. You just created hoops for people to jump through. Now, here's the thing. That all aside, the question was, is that a reasonable demand that we have people show their IDs? The court said, yeah, it's reasonable. It's reasonable. It is a reasonable request. If it does what you are trying to do, what are you trying to do with it? Is it reasonable to ask your mother to make you dinner? I guess so, if you're living at home and she's cooking for everyone else. Is it reasonable to go to the graveyard and pray and ask her to make you dinner then? No, that's insane. Stop it. They said what they're trying to do is target fraudulent voters. They said there is no evidence. There is no evidence of voting fraud. That's not a thing that they see of people same day voter fraud. Nobody's walking into an election booth with a fake ID trying to vote for somebody else, right? This just wasn't happening. They had no evidence of that. What they did have evidence of, though, was mail-in ballot fraud. The plot thickens. Mail-in ballot fraud is when you have your absentee ballot and then you fill it out and you say, this was for Uncle Johnny. And you sign it, but you're not Uncle Johnny. And then you mail it in, and that's voting on behalf of somebody else. That's voter fraud. And there was actually a bill in the North Carolina legislature. They were like, hey, mail-in voter fraud is a problem. We should make a bill that combats that. Did they do that? They did not. They did not do that. There was actual evidence of fraud that they left alone. Turns out that's a problem for their argument that they were trying to combat voter fraud. Now, the question was it racially motivated, right? That's the second thing, because the Supreme Court said it was. How can you get that it is racially motivated? Well, other than statements from individuals saying, I mean, if we don't do this, the blacks will win. Which is like, just Google, it's crazy. The things that people have said, like politicians, like actual people making the rules, very clearly admitting this kind of shenanigans is just beyond the pale. But the mail-in voter fraud problem, which maybe they're going to tackle it later, mail-in voter fraud problem, black people did not use mail-in votes. Not predominantly. It was disproportionately done by whites. So you had a population doing fraudulent voting and not the other population, and you prevent and you ignore their fraudulent voting activities in that population, in the mail-in ballot voting. You have a population that votes in person predominantly, and you make it significantly more difficult for a certain type of identification, the kind that you wouldn't have if you don't have a car, for example, your student ID or something. You make it difficult for people who show up in person to vote, and it disproportionately affected. The people who got kicked off were predominantly, by far, black. They said, you are creating laws that ignore the problem that you're saying, that target this specific population, and then you pretend like, I didn't even know. You had a problem, and you could have fixed it, and it would have been against the different people. And then you've been like, see, we're not doing this racistly, we're doing it against everybody who's fraudulent. But you're not even addressing fraud, and you're not even doing it to the people who do the fraud. Those are the two sides of this argument. Now, the thing that it is important to know, I did not argue with the other side. I'm not disagreeing with we need confidence in our election systems. We do. We need confidence that every citizen votes. We need confidence that their votes will all be counted. We need confidence that when our politicians say they're going to do something because they are beholden to the will of their constituents, that they do it. I believe that we do need confidence in our system. When they say we want to make sure people follow the rule of law, I agree. When a judge tells you to stop disenfranchising voters, you do it because of the rule of law. When a judge says, send them their ballots and let them vote, and these laws are unconstitutional, you stop enforcing that because you believe in the law. But Chris Kobach was not. He does not believe in the law. He was held in contempt of court. That's what we are facing with. Now, despite whatever is said, right? We can engage with people on what they say. But I want us to be sure we focus on what people do. There's been a lot of things that have come through the pipe recently. We had the tax bill, what? Everybody's gonna get $2.1 billion unless you're poor. And by poor, I mean not a billionaire. That, for example, that has the stated effect of being money for everybody forever and ever and ever. Except they're going to raise your taxes next year to cover it. They're going to cut your Medicare. They're going to cut your Medicaid. They're going to cut Social Security, the savings account that you are putting money into every month. That's where they want to pay for this thing. They can talk a thing, and they can sell with words but the actual repercussions of their actions can demonstrate a lot stronger what they are trying to accomplish, what a person is trying to accomplish. You can't really know a person's intent by their statements, right? They could be lying to you. But you can see the effects of an action by looking at the action. That's just point and clear. And if the thing happened the way that they wanted it to happen, they'll be like, hooray, it happened. And if it did not, they will fix it. But it shouldn't get that far. The Congressional Budget Office said, this is going to make everything worse. It's going to raise the debt by $2 trillion. Guess what they did after they gave away $1.9 trillion of our money? They tried to pass a balanced budget amendment. They said, we believe in fiscal responsibility. We're not allowed to spend more than, you just increased the debt. Guys, we need to be responsible, okay? Because unlike some presidents, we care about the economy, so we should be responsible, right? I don't believe your words when your actions belie your words. I said words twice. I want you to stop lying to our faces. That's what I would like. And if you can't do that, I would at least like you to stop talking so we can look at the actions by themselves. You won't do that. I would like you to stop hurting Americans. Please. Please. Let's talk about hurting somebody else. America is in war. We're in a couple of wars right now. Does America, I have questions. We're not going to get into these. Does America have the authority to go to war with ISIS? Do we have the authority under Article 2 to go to war with Syria? Are we friends with Vladimir Putin? Do we just make love, sweet, sweet love, to his little Russian mustache? He's clean shaven. I know. I don't care. What do we do here in America internationally? We talked about Mike Pompeo a little bit. We talk all the time about hackers and Russians and blah, 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 blah. I get it. You're tired of it. I'm tired of it. What I would like in my last couple seconds to tell you, we have an opportunity, okay? We have an opportunity to fix things. We don't have an opportunity to fix things internationally on our own. I'm a person, you're a person. I'm glad you're watching. We can do what we can do. We can talk what we can talk. If you're in a position of any kind of authority, please use that authority for good. I'm reaching out, just please, for good. But if you're just a regular person and you don't have any authority and you don't have any power, what can you do? That's my question, right? We live in the greatest experimental nation of all time. Called an experimental nation because that's what we are. We are an experiment in self-governance of, for, and by the people. We are not great because of what we have accomplished. We are great because of what we are able, we have the potential for accomplishing. We are not great because of things that we did 50, 100, 200 years ago, right? That's foundational to us being here today. We have a government where we can say and do what we would like. We have a government where we can believe and we can advocate for the things that we care about. We have a society where we can fight with words. We can engage with people who disagree with us without fear that we are going to be in mortal danger. We have a system whereby we can appeal to the law for redress of our grievances, for redress of our injuries. We have a way to protect ourselves. We have a country where we can excel. We can build what we want. You, sir, madam, friend, person, non-gendered binary person, you have the ability and the responsibility to use that. My question is, how are you using it? Right? We have a lot of people who think that the purpose of our nation is just to work together and get really rich. Capitalism for everybody. It doesn't infinitely work like that, though. If we suck the system dry, it will collapse. The only reason our system is here is because we, as citizens, as residents, we work together to build it, to make it strong. That means we have a responsibility to invest in our system. with your time, with your words, with your, I'm going to say your cash dollars, right? Put some money into it. If you can go out and talk to your neighbors, you are helping build a better America. If you can go out and volunteer at an election, right? They need people to help. You are making a stronger America. If you can figure out how you would like to fulfill your civic duty and you go out and do that, you are helping us get better. We are better when we work together. We are better when we build things for a future, for the investment of our future. When we take out of it, we end up with a debt, a societal civic debt. And right now we are seeing the ramifications of that. We have a crazy person in our White House who thinks the only purpose is a giant cash grab so that he can become richer while he sells things, and he does not care about us. We have politicians who are being held in contempt of the court and of the rule of law because they don't want to lose power. We have crazy people who are taking advantage of our lackadaisical attitude. I want to tell you, the best thing that you as a citizen, as a watcher of the show can do is go out, go to your neighbor, engage with them, build your community, build your neighborhood. Don't Facebook this. Go out and talk to them. Go be a person and talk to them. Seriously. Make this a better place. I love you guys. This is 3-6 Nation. I'm Ivan Woner. Monica Livingston is out in the wild blue. We love her. She will be back soon, probably next week. We never know. I don't never know what's going on. Everybody, big thanks. My man Moss. Can I just say, you have been an inspiration and a treat. Can you give us some music as we go out? Let's rock this, son. 3-6 Nation!